Hey everyone, Dr. D here, and I'm about to answer some more student questions. Alright, let me see. Where did I leave off last time? Uh, Okay, okay. So, motivation. Let's do this question. Motivation. I have a super busy schedule juggling work, babysitting, school, and other responsibilities. I'm spreading myself thin and can't seem to stop. I've gotten to the point where I'm beginning to lose motivation in school, which is very peculiar for me. I'm usually the person who loves school, but this semester I've become less motivated in my academics. I'm curious as to if this ever happened to you, and if so, how did you manage to deal with it? Okay, so um, so you're juggling work, babysitting. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys probably can't hear me too well with my mic so far away from my mouth. So you're juggling work, babysitting, school, and other responsibilities. So yeah, again, you've got work and babysitting and school and other responsibilities. So yes, the problem with all that is that causes you to um, not have the right amount of time for everything, and then you feel like you're not getting things done as well as you would like, and then you're probably not getting enough sleep. So yeah, that kind of snowballs into a problem, and it can affect your motivation. And part of the motivation factor is probably just lack of sleep, and part of it's just not feeling like you're getting stuff done like you used to. Because you know um, if you're used to high school, for example, that was your main job. So you would go to high school and then come home. So if you're used to doing well at school because that's the one thing you're focusing on, you know, um, well then I could see why now that you're more spread thin, it's less fun because you're just more tired. Um, and like I said in my previous videos, what you can do about that is take fewer classes or work fewer hours or take some things off of your plate because no one can do all of these things, and to do them all properly, it's very exceedingly difficult when you're trying to do all these things at once. So try to prioritize and pare down. Pare down. Or like I said before, if you're babysitting, study while you're babysitting. You know what I mean? Of course, pay attention to the child, but if the child is sitting and watching TV or something, and you're sitting with the child watching TV and babysitting, you could be studying for biology, and making sure the child's okay. So look for opportunities to work, and while you're working, maybe study, and then that way you're doing two things at once. Hopefully that this helps. But just pare down. Don't try to do so much at once. Okay, let's see what else. That was motivation. Okay. Hi, I have two questions that are similar. Did you always want to be a biology professor when you pursued your doctorate degree? And what did you do for your dissertation to get your doctorate? Okay, so no, I did not always want to be a biology professor. Well, I did want to be a biology professor, but I wanted to be a research professor, which means a professor that does research. But those positions are very few and far between, I could say. There's many, many, many PhDs for the number of biology professor positions. And not only that, what I didn't realize about being a biology professor, which I should have done more research before I went into it, was that biology professors really don't do a whole lot of biology. They don't actually do a lot of science. Now, what they do is biology professors, research professors, they write grants, they write papers, scientific papers. They write grants, but they're not actually the ones in the lab usually doing the science. So I didn't fully understand this when I went to graduate school, and I should have probably done a lot more research about it beforehand, And that's why I tell my students, know what you're getting into. Like, let's say you want to be, I don't know, a surgeon. What are the day-to-day things that you would have to do to be a surgeon? Because you just think of the most glamorous bits, but you might not even be correct. Um, so, you know, so I guess two things happened about biology. One, like I said, there aren't hardly any positions available for biology professors who do research in molecular biology like I have. And two, the job's not even as fun as I thought when I first went into the field, because I thought biology professors do the science, but they're actually just writing up the science. So writing grants is not my idea of a fun time, and writing up papers is not my idea of a fun time. I did enjoy doing the research, but that's not what biology professors do. So yeah, that was so teaching was not my main avenue, but I'm glad I got to teaching because I enjoy it a lot more than I would have if I was a research professor. And what did you do for your dissertation to get your doctorate? Well, I guess I could go grab it. I could show you real quick. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So this right here is my actual thesis. It's let me see how many pages it is. Well, some of these pages aren't numbered. These are my references, by the way. References, references, references. So 192 pages. 192 pages of thesis. And yeah, I mean, it's got all kinds of my papers I published in here. It's got my thesis, my main thesis. I did make some images. I wonder if I could find some of those images to show you. Hold on, here's some. There's some mouse embryos. Okay, there's some mouse embryos. So, what was my thesis about? So my thesis was about, it was a genetics project, and I was looking at a particular gene, and I was trying to determine whether that gene plays a role in the development of the pancreas. We were interested in the development of the pancreas because we want to figure out what causes juvenile diabetes, and we were wondering about these genes. And so I was looking at one of these genes, BMP receptor 1A. And so we made knockout mice. You know what knockout mice are? We deleted that gene in mice, and it's a genetically engineered mouse. And then I would study these mice and the embryos of these mice to see how the pancreas is formed, and if the pancreas is misformed. Okay, and long story short, we did have a defect in the mouse pancreas, but it wasn't in the formation of the islet cells, the cells that ultimately make insulin. There was a defect in situs. You know what situs is? Situs is the sidedness of development. So, you know how your heart is slightly offset to the left and your pancreas and stomach are slightly offset to your left? Well, that's situs. And what I saw with these mice, these genetically engineered mice, was situs inversus, which means that the pancreas was either on the wrong side of the body, or the pancreas did not move to the correct left side of the body. So I found a link between this gene and the direction that the pancreas grows when the pancreas forms. So that was kind of cool. That was my thesis. It was very unfortunate that the gene didn't have a role in the development of the islets, because that would have easily been a much, much higher impact journal, and that would have probably given me the leverage I would need to become a research professor myself. But the thing about science is that you can't predict whether your gene that you're studying is going to be the one that's causing the diabetes, or if it's causing, let's say, situs inversus, the pancreas to form on the wrong side of the body. One could potentially cure diabetes. The other one's really neat. And really neat doesn't get you in super high level journals. Okay, So that's kind of the history there. But good question. Let's see what else is going on here. Question: is there any way we can study biology and its concepts without memorizing it to be able to pass the class? Because it seems like most part of this class is memorizations. Examples are parts and steps. I have taken this class before but dropped it. Thanks. Um, the biology is you need to be familiar with these concepts and these terms. And there's I would argue it's not just memorization. There is a large memorization component because, like for example, the mitochondria, you just have to memorize that the mitochondria is the mitochondria, and it's the where the ATP is formed. You know, that's kind of memorization. But then understanding how the ATP is formed, which is part of Chapter 7, Cellular Respiration, well, I would argue that that's really not memorization. That's understanding. So, in my opinion, biology is more understanding than memorizing, but there's a large memorization component too. So you can't be, in my opinion, you cannot be successful at biology if you're just memorizing, and you cannot be successful at biology if you're just trying to understand things. You kind of need both. You kind of need both, and that's why I said earlier the best way to do well in biology is to look at concepts and explain it to yourself over and over again. Because when you're trying to explain stuff to yourself, you're not trying to memorize, are you? You're not trying to memorize. If you're trying to explain something to yourself over and over again, you're trying to understand it, right? But like I said in a previous video, if you try to explain something to yourself 8 to 15 times, by the 8th or 15th time, you've also memorized it, but you've also understood it. So that's the best way to learn. Okay, good question. Next question. Okay. Oh, I feel like I've answered this one before, but how to overcome school while trying to have a personal life and work at the same time. Have 3 classes left to graduate, but everything seems to get difficult to keep up with school. Is try and balance life as well. So I've explained this and I've gone into this in good depth on a previous video. But again, don't try to do too much at once. It's a good way to burn out, and it's a good way to not achieve your goals. So do your best to find. I mean, it's too late this semester because you already have the 3 classes and you're working. But maybe you could even work less. But just try to get enough sleep and try to work fewer hours and focus on those classes to do well. Okay, maybe I could do one last question. All right, another question. I've been in America for 3 years. I work 47 hours a week, gosh, and a full-time student. I'm taking 13 credit hours this semester. I think I'm doing okay with 4 classes, but my problem is I don't know what I want to be in the future. I don't know what major I should study. I'm not confident with my English either. I have read lab manual like 5 times, and every time, and using dictionary to really understand what the words mean. I also really you're also really shy to speak up. Do you have any advice for me to improve my English skills? Thank you. Okay, so you got a couple questions there. First of all, if you're working 47 hours a week and 13 credit hours, that's just above and beyond because 47 hours is more than a full-time job, and then 13 credit hours is a full-time student as well. So that really isn't a great strategy because it's not very sustainable. So hopefully you can do that, but I wouldn't recommend that in the future. If you could avoid it, I would recommend, like, if you're going to work 47 hours a week, maybe only 2 classes, and then focus on that. And then about what major you should study. I can't tell you for sure. It's really what you're interested in. Some people are numbers people. They like, to go into physics or math. Some people are more visual people, and I was more of a visual person, so I like to go into biology. Some people like visual stuff and numbers, and I think biochemistry or chemistry. It's really up to you. It's really what you're interested in, and what types of careers you want to pursue. So I really can't steer you one way or the other. Now, about your English, you're not confident about your English. So it sounds like I'm reading your sentences. They're pretty good. So I bet your English is a lot better than what you think. But it says here, how can you improve your English? Well, practice English. you know um, practice English, make study times with classmates, and try to study together, speaking English. And basically, the more you practice a language, the better you're going to get at it. And if you want, you could also take more English classes, like ESOL type classes, to brush up and get those fundamentals down. So maybe even do a minor in English, or maybe not. I don't know how much that would help. If you're trying to learn the fundamentals, but maybe take all the ESOL type courses that are offered, practice your skills, make study groups, those types of things. But I think you're already doing a good job here, with your English skills. Anyway, hopefully you take my advice in the future, and take fewer classes, or work fewer hours, because yeah, with 47 hours a week and 4 classes, that's just a burnout waiting to happen. Unfortunately, you don't want to burn out. Okay, so thanks for the questions. I think I'll stop on that one. Hopefully you take my advice, you guys. That's all I got for you for tonight, and have a nice spring break. Spring break is coming up next week. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, bye everybody.